Granblue Fantasy is a series that I was never really interested in. Outside of the mobile game that isn't officially available in the US, the only other thing I knew the series for were the two other fighting games. And I've dabbled with the first one here and there, but I've never really been too much of a fighting game fan myself, although I did like the designs and animations for the characters. When I heard the newest game would end up being an action RPG, that's where I started to get excited. Leading up until the demo, I had no idea what to expect, but today we have to talk about this amazing experience. I'll admit that I didn't get the hype at first, but after sinking in over 30 hours, I totally get what's so great about it. I looked a bit deeper into what Relink was supposed to be, and I was curious why they changed things early in development. Originally, Relink was supposed to be developed by Platinum Games, and those are the same people who brought us Wonderful 101, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and of course Bayonetta. Later on, Games decided to take over development and leave Platinum behind. And it sounded like a weird choice at first, since Platinum is very well known for their action titles. And my main question was if Games could deliver on that action-packed gameplay in a better way than what we normally see from Platinum. The short answer to that is absolutely, but I'll get more into that in a sec. The overall story mode is shorter than I expected, with about 10 chapters worth of plot, exploration, and battles. We follow along with the crew's journey to find a place called Estalucia. Along the way, they find themselves in the Zega Grande Skydom, and that's where we meet some new characters and get into a whole lot of new trouble. Not too long into the plot, we end up going on a mission to rescue a member of the crew Lyria and fight against the Church of Avia. The story itself is really decent, and one thing I like is how the characters interact in fights. There's the main crew you have unlocked from the start, and that already gives you enough classes to work with for long range, heavy attacks, and even healing. And then outside of those, you can unlock even more characters that all have their own unique playstyles. You only see the main crew members in the cutscenes, so they're obviously the ones who are the most important. But the other unlockable characters don't appear in the main plot, like Narmaya, who you'll be seeing me play as quite a bit. Despite them not being crucial parts of the team, they still end up fitting in the story missions in their own way.
Pierce the skies, shatter the earth, and bring down a god.
I love that attention to detail because it adds even more to what you can expect to see when you go back and complete missions again. But I have to admit, my biggest concern was that I don't know any of the characters from this series. And hey, that might just be a personal thing. So if you know anything about Granblue already, you probably won't feel quite as lost as I did. The story gives you some idea of what their personalities are like and a small taste of their backstory. But it just felt weird playing through the entire story mode and not having a lot of background laid out. It's still crazy that this is the third game in the series that came to the West and it's just a major release, but they still never ported over the main mobile game that we all should be playing. Hopefully we get that someday. But they do a great job of covering the characters that are exclusive to Relink, so that's pretty good. You have access to something called Fate episodes, and that's this game's way of catching you up to the story until now. And it's fine, I guess. If you really care to know enough about these characters, this is where the game is going to catch you up the most. They cover each character's backstory through these monologues, and it's not much more than some text, a voiceover, and a static image. Not to mention a few battle sections sprinkled in here and there. But as a reward, you do get some stat boosts and extra spots for sigils, so it's worth doing for the characters you want to play as or just know more about. The main story is about 15 hours long, depending on if you want to do any of the missions that pop up between chapters. It's not nearly as much as I expected from this, but it's not so bad when you realize just how much there is to do after those credits roll. This isn't something that everyone's going to enjoy because things start to get a little repetitive, sure, but the level of detail put in a different build you can create for every character is insane. We already have a total roster of 20 characters, each having a massive skill tree, multiple weapons to upgrade, and totally different playstyles, all with plenty of skills you can unlock and equip. This game was made for those people who love to experiment in fights and master each of their favorite characters. It's gonna be tough at first to choose who you want to focus on because you can spend hours just to build one character all the way to their max. And it might seem like a total grind fest, but with you being able to go online and play with both friends and randoms, you have a lot you can sink your teeth into. And I can see myself playing this way past this review alone, just because I want to aim for higher scores, better builds, and to keep enjoying this game with every character. Well, maybe not everyone, but still. Combat is a little hard to explain since it changes for each character. You normally have a main attack, a secondary attack, plus 4 different skills you can set for everyone. And at first I thought each class would be separated by the weapon they use, like a gunsmith, a swordsman, and an axe wielder. But nah, even if you have 2 different sword users, they both have totally different weapons, skills, and builds for you to level up. So even if you have one character that you really want to play as, you can spend hours just to get them up to the best point possible and still have the other 19 characters who you need to build up. You know, if you actually want to. But the biggest new feature for combat is the addition of link attacks. It doesn't seem too special at first since you basically build up the enemy's stagger bars and then do a link attack when it's full, but it gets more in depth when you add in the link percentage on the right side of the screen. When you and your party keep doing link attacks, that percentage goes up to 100 and that's when you can really get the damage going. Time will slow down and you get some buffs to have higher attack and even some health regen. Then we have Skybound arts, which are ultimate techniques you can use in tandem with team members, and that deals the most damage in battle. When all your team members use them back to back, it activates a chain burst ending with a full burst. And that full burst will always end with the element of the first person who used their ultimate. So it's a good idea to match up that attack based on the element your enemy is using, but it's not always needed. I found myself in a ton of random matches where my element was horrible for the matchup, but we still ended up winning in the end. At the end of the day, it really just depends on your builds, and there are so many ways to build your characters. The towns are the main hubs you come back to between quests to upgrade weapons, buy new gear, and prepare yourself for new battles. There's a lot of options that open up to you as you make your way through the story. The shop always adds new ways to help out your grind, like selling materials that you could be missing. And there's even a little bit of gambling you can do using medals from quests. It adds a bit of randomness, but it feels like a reward just for playing the game as you normally would. Then the blacksmith has even more weapons for you to forge going into the endgame. You can see what materials you need to collect for each weapon and even mark them to search for the quests that drop those parts. And you'll even get side quests from different NPCs in each town. Most of these are simple, like collecting materials that you might already have on you. And it's a must for you to check back for these because you end up needing as many materials as you can get your hands on anyway. Plus, you don't need to focus on each quest too much. You end up getting a bunch of these done by just vibing through whatever quest you're already doing. With so many options for weapons, skills, sigils, and masteries, you can make a monster out of almost any character you get your hands on. Even characters that you wouldn't expect to be good can be built to that perfect point. And it might take you a while, but it's fun to just jump back into quick matches online anyway. So all of that grind could just turn into some hour-long sessions where you see what quest you can take on for the day and make a bit of progress at a time. With all the missions that you unlock way after the credits, it reminded me of one particular game series. If you've ever played Monster Hunter and loved the feedback loop from it, then you'll have a blast with Relink. Doing missions again and again to farm for loot and build up your characters, then go right back stronger than ever to do more challenges. It's the kind of thing that some people may get bored with, but for anyone who loves to put the love and attention on making the best characters they possibly can, then this is the best game for you. And honestly, I think I can see why Cygames didn't want Platinum to develop Relink. While I do love Platinum, I can't say they've made many games with this much replay value. They're mostly known for making those 15-hour games that you can replay for better scores, but Relink is so much more than that. And if you have a group of friends to hop on with, then this will be an even greater experience that you can play through for tons of hours. Like, I'm sure Platinum could have pulled it off too, but at this point, who can say for sure? Before the game dropped, I asked myself why so many streamers and content creators were playing the demo to death. I'm talking about people getting S++ rank on all the demo quests with every character, plus the people who were doing the no damage runs with every character too. And I mean, they were putting in a couple dozen hours just to do the same 3 fights on repeat. And I gotta admit that I won't go as far as that, but it's definitely addicting to see what all the characters are capable of, especially in those harder fights. If you're ready to jump into this for all the post-game content, then I'm positive you'll have a blast finding your favorite character and running through the fights with them for hours. But let me know your thoughts on Granblue Fantasy Relink. Is this the kind of game you will play on repeat, or do you think it's too repetitive? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next video.